Did the Cardinals just turn the tide of their season in a way that nobody saw coming? It's possible after their sweep over the Mets in a doubleheader on Sunday. We'll talk about it coming up on B-Schaeff Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of B-Schaeff Daily. Brenden Schaeffer with you. It is Monday morning, early after the Cardinals doubleheader sweep of the Mets on Sunday. Quick update on, wow, Brenden, the Cardinals swept the Mets in a doubleheader, and you didn't post that night. I had a bowling tournament last night, and I'll be honest with you, I was in a bad place after the end of that Blues game, so I had to sleep. But I'm up here before I play a golf tournament on Monday to make sure we talk things over as it pertains to that Cardinals sweep. Because, look, this Mets team had the Cardinals number. There's no doubt about it. 5 wins in a row this season, 9 straight dating back to last year, and a doubleheader on Sunday where you just weren't sure how the pitching was going to line up. Erick Fedde had been struggling recently. Cardinals were going against Blade Tidwell making his major league debut in Game 1, so you felt like maybe the pitching could benefit you there. Andre Pallante set to go in Game 2. Could they get the good version of Pallante? You're hoping that could be the case. But for the Cardinals to come away with 2 one-run wins, 6-5 in Game 1 and 5-4 in Game 2, and to do it in Game 2, that second game is one in which if you're riding a 5-4 lead through a number of those late innings, you're thinking, all right, who's coming out of the bullpen, right? Okay, you got Maton, what about Jojo Romero? What about Ryan Helsley? Nope, none of them were options because they'd already pitched that day. In the first game, the Cardinals won by a 1-run margin. So in Game 2, what does Oliver Marmol do? Well, remember, they brought up that guy who's a starting pitcher and said, we've got him available for some length here today if we might need to use him. Depends on the score, depends on the situation, right? But Cardinals didn't really have much of another choice when it came to riding with Michael McGreevy in Game 2 on Sunday night. And boy, howdy, was he ever ready for the moment. We put him on the thumbnail image of this video because his reaction to that win, he deserved that reaction. Michael McGreevy, 5 2/3 innings for the St. Louis Cardinals on Sunday night. He gives up 1 hit, 1 walk, and no runs while striking out 5 and leading the Cardinals to a victory over the Mets. And look, at the beginning of this episode, I said, hey, did the Cardinals just turn around their season? And many of you, and it depends on how people are feeling today. Let me know in the comments how you're feeling after this Cardinals win. I understand that it's one day. I understand that the record is still what it is. The Cardinals are still sitting at a sub-500 mark for the season. But you talk about a turnaround compared to what would have happened if their normal performances of late against the Mets had carried on Sunday. What if you get swept in that 2-gamer on Sunday and it ends up being a 3-game series sweep and you're looking at a 14-21 record? Very quickly, you could see how, all right, the tides of the season, they may not turn. You're 7 games under 500 heading into Cinco de Mayo. That's not going to, this is a bad team, right? That's what everybody would have said. What are you saying now? 16-19, not saying that they've ascended the mountaintop or anything. But they're 3 games below 500. They're welcoming the Pirates to town. In the way they won those games, guys, I've been insisting this Cardinals team has talent. I have been insisting that this team has more to show than what we had seen. And folks like Oliver Marmol would have said the same thing. It's why you can't necessarily overreact to a week, 2 weeks, a month of baseball. And look, don't get me wrong. There's going to come a point in time where you have to be doing it. You have to stop talking about it and you have to go and do it. And the record's going to be how we judge you. And from there, the Cardinals will make decisions the rest of the way based on those numbers, based on that record, based on the standings. But I think the point all along has been that time doesn't have to come in April. It may not even have to come in May, may not even come in June. Trade deadline, July, you really have to start to think about, all right, these extra pieces, these guys that are on shorter-term deals, they're expiring contracts, if they have trade value, you got to flip them if you're not a contending team. Totally understand that. But how fun was Sunday? How much fun was it to watch the Cardinals in Game 1 find a way to grind out a win? It was closer than it felt like it should have been, right? You get runs in the second, third, and fourth inning. You've got a 6th spot. And then the bullpen, they start to give up a little bit here and there. The Mets are chipping away at that Cardinal lead. Phil Maton, was charged with a couple of runs. Didn't have his best stuff. Jojo Romero comes in. He walked a man, but he found a way to strand him and get the game to Ryan Helsley in the 9th, and Helsley did his job. Helsley gives up a hit there, but was otherwise unscathed, and the Cardinals win that one 6-5. You got some offensive contributions. I had made the comment about Wilson Contreras a couple of weeks ago and said he's going to get that OPS to 700 before the end of April. I was short by a few days, but in the middle of Game 1 of the series, or of the doubleheader Sunday, we saw Contreras get there. 3 for 4 with a run scored and 3 RBIs in that game. He had his 4th home run of the season to juice the OPS up to 702. Arenado, Donovan, both with multi-hit games in Game 1. Victor Scott, the second on base 3 times, went 2 for 3 and scored a run. Alec Burleson on base a couple of times in Game 1, and we finally saw from Alec Burleson in Game 2 what has to happen if he's going to be a fixture in this Cardinals lineup. And I will mention, Game 2 happened, so Contreras was only 1 for 4 in Game 2, and the OPS did drop back below 700, but 696, he's on the rise. He's going to be there. And then eventually there's going to be a spot where he just doesn't go back down from 700 or above. But Alec Burleson, big 2-run homer in Game 2. Cardinals needed it, but you get that first one 6-5. Game 2. Andre Pallante had a tough third inning, and things could have been a lot worse for Pallante and the Cardinals as things unfold there in the 4th. That catch by Victor Scott was a game-changing play. I love the caption by the Cardinals. Juan Soto up to bat, ball headed out toward Freeze's lawn. Their tweet of this play, Victor Scott II with one of the best catches ever. I love it. Lean into it, baby. Is that a little hyperbolic? Maybe. But this dude went up and robbed a home run. There's no doubt about it. You can watch the video. This ball was leaving the yard. Juan Soto, after the game, said he thought he had hit it out, and he did. Victor Scott just brought it back in. And that's in a 4-4 game. There's already 2 runners on base with nobody out in the 4th. There's a last out recorded by Pallante. They find a way to get out of that inning. McGreevy comes in. Pallante's day is short. But that's what it needed to be at this point. Like, they're starting to get to him. You're in the danger zone. Pallante had only thrown 72 pitches, but he didn't have his best stuff. He walked 4. And, man, we're going to see. I hate to think that this turns into Pallante maybe losing a spot at some point, because I do have belief in Andre Pallante. But, yeah, his numbers aren't as strong this year. 4.75 ERA. And the guy that came in after him, we got to talk about Michael McGreevy, because I don't know that he's going to be able to sustain what we've seen from him at the big league level so far. Talking about dating back to last year, and then obviously with what we saw last night. But it's probably time for this guy to be pitching at the big league level. And you guys know this. You guys have been clamoring for this. I have said the time is going to come this year for Michael McGreevy. I don't know exactly how the Cardinals do it. I don't know how these decisions are going to get made. But that was an emotional win for the Cardinals on Sunday night, and Michael McGreevy was leading the charge. Got him out of the rest of that 4th inning. Credit to Jordan Walker with a diving catch in right center field to escape that jam. Obviously, it doesn't happen without Victor Scott's catch. That is a game-changing, and like I said, if this is something that it's going to matter what they do against Pittsburgh, it's going to matter what they do against the Washington Nationals this coming weekend. But if this is something where the Cardinals can get on a little bit of a run, that Victor Scott catch is maybe a season-altering catch. I'm leading into the hyperbole today because why not? There's a realm in which you go, again, doubleheaders, they have those capacities to swing your season in one way or the other. And the Cardinals easily could have lost both of these games. Right? When Maton was struggling and Romero comes into Game 1, if Romero gives up a ball in the gap, Cardinals lose that first game. If that Victor Scott catch is not made, the Cardinals lose that second game. Instead, they win them both, and they're looking up at 500 and seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. They have got to pile on the Pirates this week. You cannot have a day like Sunday and just squander it and go drop 2 of 3 at home to Pittsburgh. Can't happen. But there's a realm in which the Cardinals could seize a little bit of momentum from this day. We'll see if it happens. Your momentum is only as good as what? Your next day's starting pitcher, and it's only going to be as good as this offense continues to put balls in play, to hit barrels, to put, to do what it needs to do at the plate. And it's going to depend on that in large order. But I think within this lineup is the talent to be this type of team. Nootbaar and Mason Wynn both have OPS above 775. It's pretty solid. Donovan's at 877. Arenado with a 2 for 4. Arenado was unbelievable defensively in Game 2, by the way. But Arenado's up to a 743 OPS. That needs to be higher. But we know Contreras has been just steamrolling of late. OPS of 696 on the season. That counts the, 0 for 20 or whatever he had to begin the year. So we know that Wilson Contreras is a bat to be reckoned with. Burleson, he's got to prove that he is one. Joel Pozo, this dude just continues to rake. He's got to stay on this team. I don't know who goes down. If it's Luken Baker, then it's Luken Baker. But when Ivan Herrera comes back, I'm not sending down Pozo. There's no way. 875 OPS, 343 average, and he's done it in a role where he's not playing every day. That's too valuable. You got to keep him. Victor Scott II, 775 OPS. So you've got Victor, Nootbaar, Wynn, Donovan, with the numbers all looking pretty good. Arenado has got to find a way to get there. Burleson, maybe what you saw Sunday night sparks him, but his numbers have got to improve. He's hitting 255, but the power has just not been there. But it was last night, so we'll see from there. Jordan Walker is really the one name that you circle right now, and Gorman too. Gorman wasn't in the lineup for Game 2. Walker 0 for 4, 2 Ks, 198 is his batting average, 535 is his OPS. I was actually at Busch Stadium on Sunday morning, pregame media availability with Oliver Marmol. Talked about Walker was going to play Game 2, but he was off Game 1, and they were oscillating some starts for him recently as he works behind the scenes with Brant Brown. That is something that has been intentional, is what he explained to the writers. And it's one of those situations where, they're still feeling good about the work that he's putting in. All he said, if it was a case where a guy was coming in and dogging on his work or getting down on himself and not having the right mentality and mindset, then you worry. He said, we're not worried about Jordan in that way. But from the outside, it's obvious to see why a lot of fans would have concern. But I asked Ollie, with Jordan in particular, is it something that, how do the conversations go with him where a guy obviously, is struggling and not putting the numbers up that he would want? And how are those conversations with him going about it being a long season and not a season where your whole career is defined by what happens in April, right? Because I think a lot of Cardinals fans are going, oh boy, Jordan Walker, here we go again. According to Ollie Marmol, Jordan Walker's got the right mentality and the right mindset about that, and those conversations have been good. He's been encouraged by them. It's got to show up. The proof has got to end up in the pudding, gang, and I understand that. I'm sure Jordan Walker understands that. Ollie Marmol understands that. Everybody gets the deal here. But with the way that Ollie is talking about it, they feel good about getting him to a spot where he needs to be. And so for right now, that's really still what 2025 is about. There's this inkling that the Cardinals can make a charge, that they can make a run, because there's, in my opinion, too much talent not to do it. Too many exciting pieces like Victor Scott that can change games. Like Michael McGreevy that can change games. 5 2/3 of relief off the sheet in a one-run game, that it doesn't get any sweeter than that. You get your defense pumping behind you with Walker's great catch. Arenado flying into the stands. I think he might have landed on some kids. He was so great about, after the fact, trying to, make sure that everybody was okay in the front row there and trying to give him the baseball and everything. Hopefully, it looked like everybody was all right there. But, I mean, this is a game in a series, especially a two-gamer on Sunday that had some vibes to it, where now we just got to see. We just got to see if the Cardinals can maintain some of that going forward. And look, it is a matter of putting the roster in the best position to thrive, and what that looks like. Michael McGreevy's probably heading back to Memphis on Monday. I would think Gordon Graceffo is ready to log some innings for this bullpen again after he had his turn on last Wednesday's doubleheader. And so I think that's probably the move. goes up for McGreevy. We'll see. I mean, Roddery Munoz was here as the 27th man. They didn't have to use him Sunday, but he probably goes back to Memphis, and you shuffle Graceffo McGreevy, if I had to guess, on Monday. Not because McGreevy doesn't deserve to stick around, but because, you're not going to have him available. Unless he's in the rotation all of a sudden. Like with the Cardinals, they certainly didn't anticipate him coming into the rotation after bringing him up on Saturday when that originally happened. They anticipated he would, give him some relief one of these days of the weekend, and if it rained, they had some cover. So the plan, I don't think at any point was McGreevy to slot into the rotation starting this week. Would they change their minds, gang? I don't know. We're going to find out. It would be quite the emotional lift for a team and for a player if you say, hey, you're rewarded for your performance. How would that look? I can't begin to guess. I had advocated that Steven Matz should get another start before shifting back to the bullpen, and that Erick Fedde should be identified on Sunday, and they should look very closely at how he performs. And if Matz were to pitch Monday and you were to have Erick Fedde maybe struggle on Sunday, then a different decision should be made. It was not at any point something the Cardinals were considering. I did ask Ollie on Sunday about, how tough that's been with Steven Matz, and he said that part's not been tough at all. It's tough to figure out when to use him, and should it be for a shorter burst, or do you save him for longer, or how do you approach him out of the bullpen? But he said in terms of like the rigors of oscillating the guy back and forth between roles and having uncertainty, and the fact that he performed well in spring, I mentioned, and I said he earned a spot. How tough has that been? And he said not at all. You could not ask for a more professional player than Steven Matz to go, to be going through this. My thought is, I'm not 100% sure I agree with the Cardinals putting him through it, but in terms of his willingness to do whatever it takes for the team, that's the guy that he's been. And the reason I spend enough time talking about that part of it is because I really do think it matters, and that Steven Matz should be commended. Look, what you might say, well, what's he going to do? What's he going to do? Say, no, I'm not pitching. But this is a guy that's in a contract year at the end of the day. And, he pitched well enough to be a starting pitcher in spring. Anytime he has thrown in that role, he has pitched well enough to retain that spot. And every time it hasn't happened. And he's gone back into the bullpen, and he's done everything the Cardinals could have hoped for in that role. So that's notable to me. But, man, when you have a day, and Erick Fedde got the win in Game 1, but when you have a day where you're constantly trying to work around walks and work around guys' struggles and guard against them, Erick Fedde goes 5 innings, 3 earned runs, 6 hits, 5 walks, and that's been a trend to his season. And when you're talking about working around those things and just trying to stay alive as a team in a game like they were in Game 1 on Sunday, and really Game 2, it was true as well with Pallante's 4 walks. And then you have a guy come in like McGreevy and go 5 2/3, doesn't walk anybody, gives up a hit, and wins you the game. And then that Steven Matz is there waiting in the wings. Is this team's best rotation to be Sonny Gray and Liberatore and probably Michaelis right now, paired with the guys we saw on Sunday? Or is it to be Michael McGreevy and Steven Matz as your 4 or 5 if you're going to a 5-man rotation, which they have to do, by the way? They can't. I didn't think it made sense to wait to have McGreevy start against the Mets and push back Pallante or Fedde. If those guys are in your rotation, which they are, those guys need to start so that you don't then push other guys back and have it be like a 7-day rotation. I get that. But now that we've seen it from Fedde and we've seen it from Pallante, I don't want Pallante or Fedde to have to lead the rotation. And the Cardinals don't either. The easiest route forward is to not mess with it. But, man, the deserving spots right now are McGreevy and Steven Matz. I'm not saying this in a way that, is suggesting it's going to happen, because I don't think it is in either case. If I had to guess, Pallante stays in the rotation for now. Fedde is not even in consideration to be moved to the bullpen. It's not even under consideration, okay? Pallante, I think, would have options, so you could keep him in a starting role and have him down as depth if you wanted to. And look, maybe that's to the benefit. We have seen Roycroft go down and then fix his sinker. We have seen Ryan Fernandez go down, and he was throwing 97 the other day. So if there's a world in which 2 starts in Memphis for Andre Pallante could help him for the second half of the season and for 2026 and beyond, maybe not the craziest thing in the world. I know he's ARB eligible, but I do think he's got options. I'm talking about these things because they're the things Cardinals fans want me to talk about. I just have to add the caveat that, guys, I don't think that this is anything that's really under consideration right now. It would be bold for the Cardinals to, look at Sunday and say, all right, we're going to change what we're doing because of that one day. But it would also be like, hey, we sense an opportunity here, and we want to react to what we saw from Sunday in a positive, meaningful way. Like, we want to make sure that this counts, that this doesn't just get swept under the rug and ignored. Cardinals fans would want, I think, the team to be reactionary in that regard. Like I said, I just don't really think that it's likely. But does it inform decisions down the road? Like, you can't forget about what Matz was doing in that starting role. You can't forget about what McGreevy did today or yesterday. It's just really interesting. It's interesting times. Because, again, it's still that development year. Well, how long do you spend developing Fedde and, Michaelis? We'll see. Developing those guys. It's not about developing those guys, right? They're in their final year with the organization. Pallante, you don't want to remove a guy like him from the rotation if he's part of your future plans and part of your present plans. But for a quick spell, to maybe feed into what you're getting from Matz right now and feed into what you're getting from McGreevy? I don't know. What do you guys think? Cardinals fans, let me know in the comments below what you think. That's like the roster move stuff that's going to be interesting and going to be in the background of all of this. But whoever's still here, whoever's still rolling, you got to have better performances from Fedde and Pallante if they're still here. And look, we saw a better version of Fedde for sure on Sunday. But still was working around some stuff, and we'll see if that's something that he can lock back in and not have those walk totals balloon. Pallante, same thing. Like, we've seen better versions of both those guys. But you take what you saw Sunday and make decisions based off of it, even if it's short-term decisions. It would take some boldness from the Cardinals, but if those are the guys that are providing you momentum right now and you don't want to squander it, it could be interesting. I don't know. We'll see. Either way, whatever they do, maybe they make no moves to the rotation. McGreevy goes back down, and you just plow forward with what you've got against the Pirates. How are Cardinals fans feeling right now after 2 wins against the Mets, where instead of being 7 games below 500 on a dreary Sunday, you're 3 games back of a 500 mark, and there's a possibility of really going on a bit of a run here. Mudzinski is the pitcher for the Pirates on Monday. I think he did better against the Cardinals last time than he should have when he faced them earlier this year in Pittsburgh, but he's got a 6.5 ERA. Michaelis has a 4.6 ERA, but has been a lot better since the Boston start. That's a game on Monday the Cardinals have got to win. It's a must-win, in my opinion. If you want to still be thinking about this team crawling back toward 500 and back toward being competitive and contending, win the game on Monday. Beat a bad pitcher, and Michaelis continue to be the pitcher you've been since Boston, where you look like a bad pitcher. Cardinals need to win the game on Monday. Tuesday, let the chips fall. You're facing Skeens. You've got Liberatore. On paper, that's still a tough matchup, but there's a way to do it. And then Wednesday afternoon is Sonny Gray against Mitch Keller. Like, Cardinals need 2 out of 3 here. Sweeping anybody is tough. Sweeping the Pirates when you have to face Paul Skeens, one of those games, is obviously tough. But then they're going to go to Washington, D.C. over the weekend, and that's a Nationals team that playing better ball, I think, than what we've seen from them in recent years. But they're same record as you as of right now, 16-19. So I'm just looking at this next week. You go to Philly after that. Like, it doesn't get any easier. But this is a little bit of a lull in the schedule where you go host Pittsburgh, go to D.C. Cardinals find a couple of series wins, and you'd be right back at the 500 mark before you know it. That's what the Cardinals need. We'll see if they're able to do it. I am still going to talk about this team in terms of, what does it look like for them to contend? Yes, we're going to talk about the development of players, but you think about it, the guys that this development year is for, guys like Walker and Gorman, there's still the ones struggling. Guys around them performing right now, and especially Sunday. And we'll see if they're able to continue on that trend and if this is something that the Cardinals can get rolling with. Do apologize again for not having anything for you guys Sunday night, but it was just going to be impossible. I could not believe what the Blues did. My quick take on that is it's still too fresh to be giving you the platitudes about how, They made it to Game 7 when nobody thought they could even be there. No, that's BS. They blew it. They absolutely choked and blew it. And it's okay to feel bad about it. It's okay to feel bad. And one of my group chats, one of my buddies, big Blues fan, was like, this was such a fun season, guys. It was so fun to, talk about everything with you. And I said, I will never watch another hockey game for the rest of my life. That was my response to him being overwhelmingly positive and optimistic about it. And I was like, that was the worst thing I've ever seen ever. And I think I'm done with sports. So we had different reactions to that. But going through it a little bit, under the weather too, and I'm playing golf on Monday. This is going to be rough. Wish me luck. But I'll be on the Sports Hub post-game, Sports Hub STL post-game for Cardinals on Monday, and then I'll try to do a late-night B-Schaeff Daily, just like normal, after Monday's game versus the Pirates. And then I'll be at Busch on Tuesday night covering Skeens Libertor. So that should be a good time. But hopefully you guys get a chance to listen to this on Monday. Hopefully everybody had a good, safe, healthy, happy weekend. Appreciate you guys very much. Let me know what I missed. Obviously, I didn't cover every topic when there's a doubleheader, and there's a lot to get into, and I was also locked in on Blues. I'm sure I missed some important things. Let me know what stood out to you from Sunday that we didn't talk about here. I appreciate you guys so very much for listening, and we'll talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.